Hey, I'm back on my channel again. It's been a while. I have been. Yeah, I'm not even gonna. Okay, I've been learning about Marx and socialism, uh, and it's been really interesting. I think if you listen to a lot of conservative pundits, really anyone, but like especially conservative pundits like Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, those kind of types, they have a really visceral reaction to the idea of socialism. They have like uh, sort of this weird straw man false equivalency. Like you talk about socialism to them, and the first thing that they say, like you can predict it every single time. Uh, it's gonna be something like let me see, uh, Venezuela, iPhone, 2000 dead, something like that. Uh, like just weird stuff. So just hearing him talk about it for like so long, and have such a visceral reaction to it. I've been researching it, and like I listened to an audiobook of the Communist Manifesto and everything because I was curious. And what I found was Ben Shapiro does not know what socialism is. That motherfucker does not know what he's talking about. None of them do. And most of like the like tankies who will talk about like Russia and stuff, and like talk about how China is so great and all that. Most of those people don't seem to really understand what it is either. A lot of it, like for conservatives, it's just sort of like kind of the same thing they do with everything. It's like kind of like an emotional, like they have predispositions that they then justify with things that are generally not very honest to themselves or anyone else. And then with a lot of leftists, you understand that like America is not that great. We've done a lot of awful shit, and we're still doing awful shit. And so you just kind of want to have like the anti-America stance, and there's not really a whole lot of nuance to it. So this is basically just socialism from what I understand it as. Um, After reading the Communist Manifesto and stuff, and all that. So basically, the first thing that you have to understand, and this is just from my perspective, I could have certain things wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I'm solid on the basics. So the first thing that you have to understand is that socialism, it's not like an idealistic. They're not trying to create like it's not utopianism. It's a pretty pragmatic approach to our material conditions and how we can uh, develop them and make them better. So Marx's thoughts, and I actually some crazy shit just to throw this out there that I learned was Marx was one of Abraham Lincoln's homies. They like they sent each other letters and stuff, and Marx apparently thought that like well, I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. So this kind of ties in, and that really like that's just kind of a weird, cool factoid. But so his stance on it was you start with feudalism. Feudalism fucking sucks. The next logical step is capitalism, and it's an improvement. Um, right, like you can own land and stuff, all that in theory. You can do certain things in capitalism, but his thought with that, because socialism, uh, political philosophy does not exist in a vacuum. It's all kind of relative to everything else, and so socialism was a critique on capitalism or a way to move forward. Um, in his estimation, basically, like that was his idea of it. So some problems with capitalism that you'll see is ethics aren't really the priority. You can look at it, the idea of it. Well, yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to try to explain it like in a good way. so that even if I'm wrong, you can tell me exactly why I'm wrong. But basically, in capitalism, you tend to accumulate wealth, right? Like you tend to, like if you own land, you have generational wealth. You see that with like black people and white people here, because white people historically had more generational wealth, and it builds on itself. If you own property in like 1920, by 2020, that wealth is gonna exponentially go on. So you see, like with black people, we didn't even have the opportunity for generational wealth. So we've been disadvantaged for a long time, and we still are. And that's an opinion or a stance that you can't move on. Like that's an objective fact, right? But so with capitalism, wealth tends to accumulate, and the value that you put into stuff, because basically with work, with labor, what you're doing is creating value. You have like a piece of wood. The worker creates value by turning it into a chair, and that wealth kind of just accumulates. I didn't want to say that word like 50 times, so fuck it, I'm gonna. And the interests of the people creating that wealth through their work, right? Because it's not like at the end of the day, it's not like Jeff Bezos that creates the value of his company. It's the people working for Jeff Bezos. They're the people doing the actual work, putting the labor in. So then the idea, because there's like you can get into the minutia of it. It like you can zoom in endlessly, but basically, the idea with socialism is, okay, well, if the 99% is creating the wealth, and we're we're creating all that value, and yet the 1% is controlling that. Like what happens to the actual value that we create? Because in capitalism, there's the worker and then there's the capitalist. The capitalist decides. He has sort of this executive control, and you might have like a board of directors or whatever, or just one guy. It depends, but at the end of the day, it's 1% controlling value created by the 99%. So the idea with socialism is that if it's the same idea as democracy. That's exactly what it is. It's democracy economically, because we don't have economic democracy. Like the vote for your dollar, the vote with your dollar shit. I'm not even gonna try to knock that one down, because that's not democracy. That's not how that works. But so the idea was basically the idea of democracy. In economics right now, we have monarchs controlling what happens with the value that we create, and then but if we were to actually have control of that value that we create, then we would be able to work in our interests a little bit better. The same with democracy. And now obviously it's not like we don't have a direct democracy, and the argument isn't necessarily for a completely direct economic democracy, although you do, like, you want it to be as direct as you want, right? Like you want it to be representative of what the people want to do with that value that they create. And to some, this might sound like that's basically the idea of socialism. That's what it is. And that might sound like a radical idea, but that idea, in a more, I guess, kind of simplified way, that's a co-op. And actually, one way that some socialists think about, because I honestly don't understand what praxis is. I haven't even looked it up. I just keep hearing about it. I think it's like the sort of the your strategy, not just strategy, but like your kind of um, more shrewd, like the I don't know, but basically, like no real socialist thinks that we should have like a revolution or something, because that would fuck the proletariat. That would not be good. But the idea is basically that it happens, that is kind of inevitable, just like capitalism was inevitable. The idea of socialism isn't that we institute all this crazy shit. It's not about a big government. It's not about any of that shit that people are going to tell you that it's about. The idea of socialism is that eventually we're gonna have to put more power into the hands of the people creating the economic, like just the wealth. And one way to implement that for some socialists is through, because that is basically the idea of a co-op, right? Like you have essentially socialism working under capitalism with a co-op. So one idea to do that under capitalism, because it is supposed to be a gradual change, is to try to like push for eventually maybe incentivizing co-ops, right? Because co-ops are de-incentivized right now, I believe. Like they when you go to the bank, you'll get worse loans and stuff, like lower quality loans and all that. So the idea basically is a more kind of pragmatic. That's what I was looking for. A pragmatic strategy. The more pragmatic way to do it is if you push to incentivize co-ops and to so right when you start a business, you're gonna have a decent like you might have better loans or something. You might get like I don't know, like a fucking grant, some shit. I don't know. That stuff is not what I'm really as concerned about, because I'm not a fucking economist. I mean, I am concerned about it. I'd love to learn about it, but that's just like in the weeds. You know, like that's like way deeper ahead than I am right now. But that's basically the idea of it. And like with when people control it, you have like the benefits of democracy, right? Because the great thing about our democracy right now is that although it's not by any means a direct democracy, and there's all kinds of shit going on that influences it, but on like kind of just the basic level, we control what happens to us. We control like, you know, we get our representatives and all that, so we have our interests in there. But under capitalism, you really don't. Like who's telling Jeff Bezos what to do with the capital he's creating? I guess no one right now, because he's stepped down. But like, you know, like it's kind of intuitive. Like living under, like we already live under a democracy. Basically, the idea is, you spend like the politics and all that. It's good that we have a democracy, but we spend most of our time at work. We spend most of our time worrying about like economic stuff and all that. Like most of our time we spend dealing with capital, creating value, all of that. So a really meaningful way to change the life of the actual 99% and to improve upon it is to work towards socialism. And that's all that socialists want. They don't want to like install like a new government or something. I mean, they do. Like our government isn't perfect, but like there's sort of like there's two goals that you have to have as a socialist, as I understand it. You have the ideal, and actually the ideal for some is like at a certain point, like maybe you could make communism work, all that stuff. But then you have your working opinion, right? So that's your ideal opinion, but your working opinion is sort of like with Bernie Sanders. The system we're living under right now is capitalism. So let's slowly try to kind of socialize some of the things that we have right now. And then here's my problem with socialism. Here's the one single problem I have ever. This is like the one really compelling. Actually, I don't even know if it's compelling. This is the one thing that I've ever heard about socialism that would kind of give you pause on it, and that is just literally the Venezuela argument. That shit. And now you take places like the Soviet Union and stuff, and all that, and China. Although China is actually some people prefer to call it like state capitalism and stuff, because the problem with all these is that you're not necessarily arguing for installing that government. What you're arguing for as a socialist is what Marx was talking about. You want that, but you want it here. And you don't want to do it the way that they did it, because the Soviet Union didn't work out, and Venezuela's got problems and stuff. So my only not even contention, actually, my only question would be then, why did these places where it didn't work out, why did they not work out? And was it some flaw in socialism, or the what was the flaw in the application of socialism, basically? And that's what matters. What absolutely matters is the way that it's applied, because from what I've learned, socialism is absolutely the next step. Capitalism is it's served us well and it's shat on us. But socialism is the next step, and that might not even be the last step, because like you progress, shit changes, the world gets bigger. But yeah, my only question about socialism would be why did that shit not work? And I mean, to be fair, co-ops work great. They're like historic co-ops that do fucking amazing. And I mean, when you have like a say in what you're working in, you want to innovate. Like you know, it's literally your business. Like it's not you are you kind of, it's not you having like your arm bent to work at like some place where like any place where under capitalism it's not your business. You don't have a say. You don't have, like, you have some basic rights, but under socialism you have a say. It's like with democracy, like, well, because it is democracy. But that's my take on socialism as I understand it. I think socialism is great, and I think, like, when people, I mean, to be a Republican right now, you have to be ignorant. That is a fact. I think it's a fact. But I think it's funny, like, all these people, all these Republicans, accusing like AOC, Bernie Sanders, and all that. Like, they're like, oh, they're socialist. It's funny actually reading stuff, because when you actually read it, and they hit you with the, oh, they're socialist, your response is going to be, yeah, or kinda, but not enough. I don't know. Like, great, they're a good start. They should be more socialist. That kind of shit. But yeah, that's my take on socialism. I've tried to get as nuanced of a take as I could. And really, like, I should have planned this out so I could have actually, like, spoken a little bit better for my opinion on it, but it is what it is. More videos soon, maybe? I don't know. Fucking.